so this is my BNI presentation, and as you may know, I've been also doing Toastmasters, and for the purposes of this presentation, I'm recording myself just to have some kind of feedback and personal development and see how I come across in general. So, you know, we are BNI Chartered Surveyors, and every week I say we are commercial property advisors, valuers and agents. And today I just want to give you a few examples of what I do and how I help clients to achieve their goals with their commercial property assets. And kind of the three key areas I want to focus on is our lease advisory service, which includes rent reviews and lease renewals, and to tell you that we are RICS registered valuers, so we can provide global standards valuations for your commercial property assets as well as residential property as well. And just to back up the agents aspect, we are commercial property agents, so we can look after properties on behalf of landlords, and we are also offer estate agency services, so lettings and sales. So some of the pictures are, so I was able to provide a property valuation. We are surveyors of all weathers, so that was in the pouring rain, and it was a house with a large plot, and there was a friendly goat in the shed. So that was a surprise element. And we also carry out market rent appraisals, so valuations of industrial units. And this is me and Rebecca. We took on a property management of 5 units in an industrial estate, and also we look after shops and provide people who are tenants with lease advice. So just to focus on the valuation aspect, so as a RICS registered valuer, we are what some people seek when they want what's called a red book valuation. So that's a formal valuation for either professional purposes such as self-invested pension plans, or probate valuations, or kind of matrimonial services, so that a report needs to be created so that it gives you an idea of what this property is worth at a specific time, and that can be used to kind of either calculate capital gains tax, discuss matters with the Inland Revenue, or to allow a business to move an asset from one place to another place and properly account for them. And we recently carried out a valuation of a retail space for Spark Community Space. So they wanted us to give them initially lease advice because they're taking on a lease, but because they're a charity, they have to make sure they are compliant and that they're getting the best market rent for the charity so they can properly account and report to the trustees. So we have done that for them, and hopefully they're going to be going through the process of lease completion. And on a side note, as Biscoes are their solicitors, and we're working really well together to help them achieve the rental. And these aren't stock photos, so this is Heidi's. We advised Heidi on the value of some of her assets, and we are now also her agent for letting and selling some of her properties. And this other property is not a commercial property but a residential property. It was a lovely place that we were able to provide valuation for probate purposes and as part of our service, just examples of. And then moving on to our management services. So we are commercial property managers. So if you know landlords who either owns one property or several properties, and they've got their day job, or they somehow inherited a property and they don't know what to do with either liaising with tenants, collecting rents, or kind of dealing with contractors. So this, as I say, are 5 units. They asked us to look after the estate in general because all the owners have their own companies to look after, so they don't want to be dealing with, for example, the gutter clearing, cladding, cleaning. The sign was knocked down by a lorry, and we had to get that reinstated. So rather than them sorting all that out, we do that and also collect the funds to pull together so that they don't need to worry about that, and we can help look after it and just report back to the owners as a group, so they don't need to be thinking, oh, I own this unit, but that unit over there, you know, has some money that, you know, didn't need to collect. So we sort that all out. And also we are commercial property agents. So this is an example of a recent letting, so a recent instruction where we're trying to let a shop in Waterlooville, and the owners approached us after, I think it was a LinkedIn connection, and we were able to kind of create also a 3D tour for them at no extra charge, so you can have a walk around virtual tour in your own time, and not have to be beholden to, you know, specific working hours. And then if you want to have a more detailed look, we always recommend a physical visit anyway. So those are the value or agency aspects. And then just to give you a final example of a lease advice that's a bit more tangible and that you can understand in cost savings. So a lease is either a 5 or 10 year lease, or, you know, a varying amount of years, and in that there are what we call lease events. So if it was a 10-year lease, you might have a review at 5, so that the market rent is reviewed, so what you take out at the beginning might not be what the rent you pay 5 years in, and then 10 years later it might also change. But when you're on a lease, they also expire, and you either renew it or you vacate. And on this one, the tenant approached us to give them lease advice and also to carry out their negotiations. So if someone doesn't seek a surveyor, they might not necessarily know what the market rent is. They might just go along with what the landlord's proposed, or they might try and negotiate themselves, and not always successful. However, on this occasion, the tenant asked us to advise them and negotiate on their behalf, and just this slightly different tweet, but just for example, so the landlord proposed in £9.50 per square foot. So industrial spaces, you can imagine quite a large spaces, they can be 85 pence was the difference that we achieved. Even 85 pence over 8,000 square foot is quite a big difference. So for example, this one was a lease renewal, so we renewed for another 10 years, and after 5 years there's a review. So we always give an idea of, so the first 5 years in rent on £9.50 would have been £380,000 rental. Whereas when we negotiated and achieved an £8.65 per square foot, and the overall 5-year rent is £346,000. So that's a saving of £34,000 in a 5-year amount of space. So you can imagine, you can do a lot more with the business and put money rather than into rental, maybe invest it into the business. So the tenant was quite happy that we were able to kind of provide evidence to support that it's not £9.50, it's a bit of a lower rental, and we look at what other transactions have happened in the area to support an argument, and basically we go kind of negotiate with the landlord's agent and achieved what we thought was a fairer representation of what the rent should be. And you can find this case study on our website, and also the reference to Sparks Community Space is also on our website. And you can also find out more about Sparks Community as a backlink on that. So those are just 3 examples of the kind of services we cover. So that's a kind of valuation for property owners or commercial property assets, so that we can give them an idea of market rent or a market value. We also are agents, so managing agents or commercial property agents, and we also provide lease advice. So that's kind of a run through of 3 key areas of the business, and that's myself and Rebecca, who's my business partner.
Okay.